action.
So, hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the 18th lecture of this course of Environmental Science, having the course code MC301, which belongs to BTech second semester and is a mandatory course in this BTech. Now, we have come across 17 lectures previously, and we have seen multiple things in this 17 lectures. So 17 lectures is a huge number, and we have seen several things. Right now, what these several things are within the lecture 1 to 6, we have come across the different aspects of the general environment. Right now, what general environment means? It means nothing but every bits and bits of the environment that we know. Right, it starts from resources, resistance, whatever nature has provided, and whatever we are providing as human beings. Right, what resources are, how many types of resources are there, how we use the resources. Also, it implies how we destroy the resources. Okay, now after this, we people have seen what is ecosystem, what are the different types of ecosystem: terrestrial, aquatic, grassland, desert, forest, pond. Okay, these things also we have seen. After that, we have seen what is population, how population is affected when any change occurs. Right, this sort of things we people have seen, and this was followed in turn by other things like uh, different objects of environmental management, right? Objectives of environmental management, on how we are doing environmental management. What are some stringent laws that are implemented on the human beings to save nature, and several other topics we people have discussed. Right. This was 1 to 6. Now, after that, from 7 to 13, we had the second module, that is air and its pollution. Inside that, we have seen what is air, what is atmosphere, what are the layers of atmosphere. Okay, and detailed study about the layers of atmosphere have been done, and these have been followed by the different pollutants of air that we people know, right? And primary pollutants, secondary pollutants. Okay, and also we people have seen what are criteria pollutants. After that, we have seen what is acid rain, what is smog, right? What is global warming, what is greenhouse effect, ozone layer depletion, each and everything we have studied, right, in the module air. Okay, now we are dealing with the module water, and we have already completed 4 lectures inside this particular module for water, right? So this is the fifth and final lecture of the water pollution part. Let us see what this lecture is having. Now, already, let us have a quick recap that what we have studied. In water, we have studied first that what is alkalinity, and what is the water quality parameter, right? How water quality is to be checked. After that, we people have seen what is primary treatment, what is secondary treatment. Then we have seen what are pathogens, what are heavy metals, and what is eutrophication. And very important thing, we have seen that what is BOD, how the BOD test is being conducted, what is piped BOD test, and how BOD is different from COD. Okay. Now, this is the, as I have told you, the fifth and final lecture of water and its pollution, part 5. And in this particular lecture, we are having the highlights like this. First, we people are having hardness of water. Then we'll see types of hardness, that is temporary hardness and how it can be treated. Then we'll see permanent hardness and how it can be treated. And last but not least, we will see alkalinity. Okay. So are you ready? Let us move to the first topic. Okay. Now, as you people can see, it's clearly written. The first topic is hard and soft water. Now, what is hard water? What is soft water? We need to know. Okay. So gradually you will come to know. It may happen that you already know it, but still we will try to know. Okay. So rainwater is almost pure, and it may contain some dissolved gases from the atmosphere. Right? Why rainwater is pure? Because it is coming directly from the clouds, purest form. Okay, but what happens whenever it is coming from the clouds? It passes air, and in air different type of gases are present. Okay, so it passes those gases whenever it travels through the air, right? That's why it is written it may contain some dissolved gases from the atmosphere. Okay, now being a good solvent, when it flows on the surface of the earth, it dissolves many salts. Yes, water is the best solvent available. So whenever it is flowing the surface, what will happen? Different type of salts that are present on the earth surface will get dissolved in this particular water. Okay. Now, presence of calcium and magnesium salts in the form of hydrogen carbonate, chlorides, and sulfates in water makes water hard. Now, if calcium and magnesium, hydrogen carbonates and chlorides and sulfates are present in water, then we will say the water is hard. Okay. Now, hard water, how we can see? By simply seeing a sample of water, you cannot say that whether calcium or magnesium are present or not. But we can predict whether the water is hard or not. How? See, hard water does not give lather with soap. So whenever you will take some soap and you will try to apply that particular soap with water, you will rub it out, no lather you will get, right? Then you will understand that the water is hard. Now, water free from soluble salts of calcium and magnesium is called soft water. It gives lather easily with soap. Hard water forms scum that is precipitated with soap. Yes. Why it does not form lather? Because it forms scum, right? Now, what is scum? We need to see using a particular reaction. Now, basic constituent of soap is sodium stearate, that is C17H35 COONA, right? Sodium stearate is this particular thing. Reacts with hard water to precipitate calcium magnesium stearate. Now, this is the calcium magnesium stearate, as you people can see. This is the gummy mass which is precipitated and is called scum, right? It is therefore unsuitable for laundry. What is unsuitable? Hard water is unsuitable for laundry, and it is harmful for boilers as well, because the deposition of the salts in the form of scale, this reduces the efficiency of the boiler. The hardness of water is of two types, temporary and permanent. But before going into the details of hardness of water, we should see what are the effects of water, right? See, first of all, hard water cannot be used for washing purpose, so it is very much unsuitable for use in laundry, right? Now, why they are harmful for boilers? Because what will happen, they contain different type of salts. So whenever we will use that particular water into the boiler, then what will happen, a thick coating of the salts will be on the wall of the boiler, right? So this will result in a big problem. What type of problem will be there? The efficiency of boiler as well as the inner size of the boiler will be reduced, right? That's why we generally do not prefer the use of hard water inside a boiler. Okay, and this is the main cause, right? Now, as we see that water is of two types, hardness is of two types, temporary hardness and permanent hardness. We'll gradually go to this particular topic and we'll try to understand that what is temporary hardness, why it is caused, and how it can be treated, and what is permanent hardness, how it is caused, and how it can be treated. Okay, so let us go to the next page. Now, as you can see here, first we will see what is temporary hardness. Okay, so let us see. So temporary hardness is due to presence of magnesium and calcium hydrogen carbonate can be removed by, okay, what is how, when water will be said temporary hard? If the see, basically hardness means presence of calcium and magnesium, right? Now, calcium and magnesium are two metal ions and they cannot be present alone, because we know that ions cannot exist by together. Ions cannot exist by themselves. Okay, we know it very well from our previous knowledge of chemistry that an ion cannot exist independently. So if cation is there, there must be some anion nearby. Okay, this is a rule and we cannot violate it because it is a natural rule. It is a rule of nature. Okay, so ion cannot exist independently. Now we know that hardness, the word hardness basically comes for calcium and magnesium. So whenever hard waters are there, definitely we will imply that yes, it is due to the presence of calcium and magnesium. But how we are going to know whether this particular hardness is temporary hardness or this permanent hardness? How we'll come to know? It is quite simple. If hydrogen carbonates of calcium and magnesium are present, then it is temporary hardness. And if chloride, sulfate and carbonate, not hydrogen carbonate, chloride, sulfate and carbonates of calcium and magnesium are present in water, then it is called permanent hardness. Okay. So at this moment we are dealing with temporary hardness. So number one method, the first method of temporary hardness removal is boiling, right? Now, as we know very well that whenever we boil water, what happens? Some precipitation occurs. So boiling, let us see, during boiling the soluble MgHCO3 whole twice, means magnesium hydrogen carbonate, is converted to insoluble magnesium hydroxide, and calcium carbonate is changed to calcium hydrogen carbonate is changed to insoluble calcium carbonate. So basically two different reactions take place inside water whenever we boil it, and whenever that water contains dissolved salts of not dissolved actually dissolved salts of calcium and magnesium hydrogen carbonate. If a given sample of water contains a dissolved salt of calcium and magnesium hydrogen carbonate, then it is said to be having temporary hardness, right? Now this temporary hardness can be removed by two methods. Two reactions occur actually. In the first method, that is boiling, two reactions will occur, right? Now we are having magnesium hydrogen carbonate and calcium hydrogen carbonate. As we can see from the reaction, that the magnesium hydrogen carbonate will convert to MgOH whole twice, and the calcium hydrogen carbonate will convert to CaOH whole twice. No, it will not be CaOH whole twice, rather it will be CaCO3. CaCO3. Okay, the little mistake here. Let us write it in a good manner. CO, here we'll write 3, right? CaCO3 plus CO2. Okay. So basically it is because of high solubility product of MgH whole twice as compared to that of MgCO3 that MgH whole twice is precipitated. See, we know it very well from our knowledge of class 11, that is equilibrium knowledge, right? From the chapter equilibrium we have learned that solubility product is such a thing that if somebody is having some particular compound is having more solubility product, it will precipitate faster. Okay. Now due to the high solubility product of MgOH whole twice, it gets precipitated over MgCO3, but the reverse happens in case of CaOH whole twice and CaCO3, right? In case of CaOH whole twice and CaCO3, CaCO3 is having more solubility product and hence it will get precipitated, but calcium hydroxide basically it will be insoluble, right? It will be soluble. Okay, this precipitate can be removed by filtration. Filtrate thus obtained will be soft water. So filtration we will do, and the filtrate will be soft water, and whatever the residue is will be this particular salts of calcium carbonate as well as magnesium hydroxide. Okay, so this was a technique which is called boiling. Next is Clark's method. Now here in Clark's method, what we are doing sorry, in this method, calculated amount of lime is added to hard water. It precipitates out calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide, which can be filtered out. Similar type of method is being done, but here instead of boiling we are adding lime. Lime means calcium hydroxide, right? As you can see in the reaction, calcium hydrogen carbonate plus calcium hydroxide will give us calcium carbonate, and magnesium hydrogen carbonate plus calcium hydroxide will give us calcium carbonate plus MgOH whole twice. So we can clearly see that this particular salt, this one and this one will get precipitated along with this one. This three will be precipitated and will get the desirable soft water. Okay, so these are the methods of removal of temporary hardness of water. Now we are having permanent hardness of water. In permanent hardness, what we are having? See, it is due to the presence of soluble salts of magnesium and calcium in the form of chloride and sulfate. I told you already that chloride and sulfate results in permanent hardness. Now this is not removed by boiling, can be removed by following methods. Now what the methods are? There are 4 different methods. Okay, first method has been explained because it is quite easy and it is in the syllabus. Other methods have not been explained, but I'll explain it gradually. Okay, so treatment with washing soda is the first method. Washing soda reacts with soluble calcium and magnesium chlorides and sulfates in hard water to form insoluble carbonate. So whenever we are adding washing soda to water, what will happen? What is happening? The calcium and magnesium chloride sulfate in hard water will react with washing soda to form insoluble carbonates. Okay, as you can see, MCl2 and MSO4 are nothing but calcium magnesium chloride and calcium magnesium sulfate. I'm talking about these two, right? Reacts with Na2CO3.NH2O, that is what formula of washing soda. Okay, and what will happen? They will precipitate out CaCO3 and MgCO3 along with NaCl and Na2SO4. Okay, so in this way the salts will be precipitated out and will get the desirable soft water. Okay. Number two, the second method is Calcon's method. Now here the method has not been explained in that way, but I will tell you what Calgon is and how this method is being done. Okay. See, Calgon is sodium hexametaphosphate, Na6P6O6, right? Sodium hexametaphosphate. Now this particular thing, if added to the hard water, what will happen? It forms complexes with calcium and magnesium. Now once it forms complexes with calcium and magnesium, they will be easily separated out using the complex, and we need to filter that particular liquid, so the complex will be just left behind as a residue, and the filtrate will be our desirable soft water. Okay, this is Calgon's method. Now in ion exchange method, what happens? Ion exchange method and synthetic resins method are more or less similar. Okay, what we are having inside these two methods, in ion exchange method we use an ion exchange column. It is basically column chromatography. We will use an ion exchange column, and we will use maybe a silica gel bed, right, inside that particular column, right? Now what we are going to do, we will add hard water from the top of the particular column. So what will happen? The hard water will be absorbed totally by the silica gel that is present inside the column. Okay. Now what happens? We will add Na plus or sodium chloride solution from the topmost part or from the upper part of this particular column, right? Now what will happen? Na plus will come up, and the pores that were previously bonded to calcium and magnesium, now they will be bonded to sodium because their bonding with sodium is better, right? So what will happen? They will make the calcium and magnesium leave that particular sample. If this calcium and magnesium is left, then what will happen? Our hardness is removed. Okay, so this is the ion exchange method. A synthetic resins method is almost similar to that of ionic exchange method. Here the bed that is used is made up of synthetic resins. Okay, so that is what we people are having towards this particular topic, which are called the removal of permanent hardness of water, right? Okay. Now we are having alkalinity, but before going into the details of alkalinity, let us discuss one thing in detail, that alkalinity experiment we used to have in our BTech syllabus. Okay, that is measurement of alkalinity of water sample. At this moment it is not present in our BTech syllabus, but it was a very good experiment, that measurement of alkalinity of water sample. Now what basically we people do while we measure the alkalinity of water sample, first we need to know the details about water. Now we need to know, whenever we take a general sample of water, what type of anions and cations are present inside that particular water sample. Okay, if we go into the fact to find out that what ions are present inside this water sample, you will come up with the result that there are three different types of anions that are present in the water sample. Basically 4 different type of ions that are present in the water sample. Anions I am talking about, right? Because anions result in alkalinity or basicity. Okay, now what these particular ions are, they are nothing but hydrogen carbonates, sulfates, chlorides and carbonates. Okay, HCO3 minus, CO3 2 minus, SO4 2 minus, Cl minus, right? Now among these 4 ions, hydrogen carbonate will be there, but carbonate will not be there. Why? Because carbonate will react with water to form hydrogen carbonate. So these have been reduced to 3 ions. Also Cl minus we will never get, so we will be left behind with the other 2 ions, and due to which we will actually, due to hydroxide, bicarbonate and carbonate, we will get the alkalinity. Okay, so let us see how this works, right? Now alkalinity is the capacity of a water to resist change in pH that would make the water more acidic. We need to know what is alkaline. Do you know what is alkaline? What is the difference between alkali and a base? Anybody can tell me what is the difference between alkali and a base? It's a very basic question of chemistry that is asked in class 9, 10 level. That what is the basic difference between an alkali and a base? People say acid base. Some people say acid and alkali. Then is base and alkali same or they are different? Always remember, all alkalis are bases, but all bases are not alkalis. Again, I am saying all alkalis are bases, but all bases are not alkalis. Now, why we are saying like this? See, alkali means water soluble base. Suppose we are having sodium oxide and sodium hydroxide, NaO and NaOH. Both are bases. Okay, NaO is a base, also NaOH is a base. But the problem is NaOH is a base as well as alkali, but NaO is a base but not alkali, because NaO is insoluble in water, but NaOH is soluble in water. Okay, so we need to know what is alkali. And alkalinity is basically the capacity. See, your water will become acidic. So if we want to stop this acidic behavior of water, what we need to know? We need to add some base. Now, if whatever bases or whatever alkalis are already present in water that resist the pH change, okay, towards acidity, that is called the alkalinity of water, and it should not be confused with basicity, which is absolute measurement of the pH scale. So alkalinity is just present as it is in water, and basicity is somewhat more stronger parameter than alkalinity. Okay, so basically alkalinity is the strength of a buffer solution composed of weak acid and their conjugate bases. Fine. It is measured by titrating a solution with monoprotic acid such as HCl until the pH changes abruptly or it reaches end point where that happens. Okay, so basically weak acid and their conjugate base, I think you remember, it is acetic acid and sodium acetate, right? Together they become buffer solution, okay, which is called acidic buffer, right? And basically as alkalinity is measured by titration. Now, how this titration will be done? It is simply titration with HCl solution, right? And where the end point will be colorless, right? See, water is alkaline. If you add phenolphthalein indicator, what will happen? It will be pink. So gradually, whenever you will add acid, the pink color will decolorize, and finally one time will come when it will be totally colorless. That time we will say yes, our solution is base free or alkali free, and neutralization process have complete. Okay, alkalinity is expressed in unison milliequivalents per liter, which corresponds to the amount of monoprotic acid added as a titrant in millimoles per liter. Fine. Alkalinity of natural water is determined by soil and bedrock through which it passes. Yes. So basically, we know that weathering of rocks and weathering of soil is a very important concept. So whenever water will pass over rocks, some portion of the top layer of the rock or the soil will mix with water, right? And it will result to alkalinities. That is very important to consider. Main sources of natural alkalinity are rocks, which contains carbonate, bicarbonate, and hydroxide compounds. Boron silicate phosphate are also present in rocks, so they may also contribute to alkalinity. Right? This is also very important concept. Water alkalinity and pH are not same. Water pH measures the amount of hydrogen, that is acid ions in water, whereas water alkalinity is a measure of carbonate and bicarbonate levels in water. Basically, we can say in a simple term that alkalinity and pH are not same, rather they are opposite to each other. Okay, alkalinity and pH are not same, rather they are opposite. Why I am saying so? Because pH means measurement of number of acidic ions, alkalinity means measurement of number of basic ions. pH means measurement of H plus ions, alkalinity means measurement of carbonate and bicarbonate ions. Okay, now for all water sources, it is the alkalinity that actually determines how much acid to use, not the pH. High alkalinity levels are actually good for aquatic life. Unlike most other measurements, high alkalinity is good and low alkalinity is bad. High alkalinity shows that the liquid has the capacity to neutralize high amounts of acid. As a result, pH levels becomes safely between 7 and 8. So high alkalinity means nothing but the pH level will be within 7 and 8. So it is preferable, if alkalinity is good, the water condition will be termed as perfect for the growth of fishes, right? So alkalinity is basically a very good concept and a very good thing. Okay, right? So this was all about the alkalinity and hardness of water. Now, in this lecture, we people have clearly seen that what is hardness, what is temporary hardness, what is permanent hardness, what is the cause of hardness, how temporary as well as permanent hardness can be removed. And also we have seen what is alkalinity, what is the basic difference between pH and alkalinity, how alkalinity and basicity is different, right? And the good things about alkalinity, that is, it is good for fish population and all, right? So that things we will have seen. And with this, actually, our water module has been finished, right? So in water, we have seen multiple things, right? And we have seen what is water, how pollution occurs, and how to control also, that we people have seen in the last lecture. And here we are seeing some important parameters, that is hardness and alkalinity. Okay, so thank you so much, and in the next lecture we'll come on with land and its pollution, right? So till then, stay tuned, stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you.